Hello and welcome to those of you watching live on satellite television, as well as on our social media platforms, Facebook and YouTube. I'm Sablor Klamma and I'm here with the English news for the hour. Airstrikes on civilians in Tigray have become a daily occurrence, with several cities across the region bombarded on a daily basis. Another airstrike on Friday in Charchar in the southern parts of Tigray has resulted in the death of 2 civilians and the heavy injury of 4. Abil Tigabo reports.
Since October, the Ethiopian government has routinely bombarded urban areas across Tigray, killing hundreds and wounding many more. On Friday, a drone attack in a residential area in Charchar district, southern zone of Tigray, left 2 civilians dead and many more injured.
I was at home when the drone attack took place. I was going out for my son when the drone attack.
We were at home when the airstrike took place. It is 3 people here, including this little child.
This is a proof that he is against the people of Tigray. He's targeting civilians and residential areas. He targets farmers, not soldiers. I don't know what he gets out of this.
Destruction of civilian property has been a major feature of the conflict in Tigray, and especially area bombardments that have primarily been focused on civilian installations.
What have those animals done? What exactly did they do? Those camels have nothing against them. We too are not combatants. He wants to eradicate all of us, including our wives, our children, and our animals.
The glasses are all shattered. My son and I are also injured. All my property has been destroyed.
I was at home. My son was inside the compound. Everything was fine. The drone started to attack when he was out to look after the camels. He just fell on the ground. The camels died immediately. Most of our property has been damaged. I don't care much about the properties, but about my son's injury. He was wounded on 5 different places.
Local officials from the district say the attack was conducted in a residential area where there had been no combatants in sight.
There were no combatants here. There are only shops and small coffee houses. The kid who was hit while looking after the camels was only 8 years old.
It is to be recalled that a drone attack on public transporting minibus in Milazat had killed 23 civilians on Monday.
The Tigrayan diaspora in the United Kingdom held a demonstration earlier this week, calling on the United Arab Emirates, Iran and Turkey to discontinue their support for the genocidal conflict in Ethiopia. Abil Tigabo has more.
Tigrayan diaspora in the United Kingdom protested the role of Iran, Turkey and the United Arab Emirates in funding and arming the government of Ethiopia and Eritrea's ongoing genocide on Tigray. The community highlighted this country's role in funding and selling arms to the Ethiopian government, leading to the continuous bombardment of cities across Tigray, killing hundreds of civilians and destroying public and civilian property. The protesters asked that the international community in the state work to ensure that humanitarian aid is provided to the millions in need and an immediate end to the siege on Tigray.
We as a Tigray, we beg in the world, we want food, no bomb! No 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 food, no bomb! We want 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 food, no bomb!
The demonstrators also urged the international community to take meaningful action to bring an end to the ethnic cleansing campaign in western Tigray and the mass detention and killing of Tagaru in other parts of the country. In an open letter sent to 53 heads of state, President Debretsion Gebremichael had highlighted that the conflict has been exacerbated by external intervention, mainly by the United Arab Emirates, Turkey, and Iran.
Thousands of Tigrayans have crossed borders into Sudan in the hopes of finding shelter from the countless atrocities being committed by invading forces. Aid workers speaking to Al Jazeera say these refugees are in serious dangers as essentials like food and medical supplies are running out. Meron Eman has more on that.
We have only this type of food that you see here. I had it for 14 days. Now people are throwing it away. They don't want it anymore.
Aid workers in Sudan have expressed their concern regarding the influx of refugees, leading to the spread of infectious diseases and may even lead to severe shortage of essentials such as food. Workers at reception centers in the camps add that it's getting hard for them to provide the refugees with needed food and healthcare assistance, as well as security, as the influx of refugees through the borders is increasing. The increasing numbers of refugees have also resulted in the deterioration of living conditions for those sheltering at overcrowded camps, where infectious diseases have been spreading amid a lack of basic infrastructure. One of the supervisors at Basunda camps in Qadarif that Al Jazeera spoke with stated that refugees, mostly women, children, and the elderly, are crossing the border on a nearly daily basis due to the ongoing conflict. The government of Tigray and the international human rights groups have recently reported on mass explosion, killing and torturing of Tigrayans in western Tigray that borders eastern Sudan.
We never ate this type of food back home. We simply don't know it. We can't eat it. Since I had a little bit of cash, I bought some wheat flour to make bread and soup that suits my taste.
For the past 5 months, Tigray has been completely cut off from the rest of the world.
The U.S. State Department issued a statement on Friday.
Now, our specialized comprehensive hospital has announced that the depletion of medical supplies has
on
made it
Friday regarding the mass detention.
So it would be a joke to call for an election after putting major political party leaders and activists behind bars.
Airstrikes in Tigray are as old as air forces, the existence of air forces in the world.
Do you believe that Tigray is abandoned by international community?
We should have been discussing about broadening democracy. We should have been discussing about maintaining our double-digit growth and all that.
The Archbishop of Mekelle held a press statement on Friday calling on religious leaders across the world to be a voice for the voiceless and speak out against the genocide on Tigray. Haile Gabru has a report.
The Ethiopian government and its allies has intensified aerial bombardment of cities and towns across Tigray, bombarding civilian infrastructures and religious institutions using drones and fighter jets, killing hundreds and injuring many more. Archbishop of Mekelle, Abuna Isaias, gave a press conference on Friday condemning the targeting of civilians and the destruction of public and civilian property.
Ethiopia is in a horrific situation. Civilians and religious institutions are bombarded by drones and fighter jets on daily basis. Why is all this happening in Ethiopia? What did Tigray do? Even our fathers hadn't experienced such kinds of atrocities. We are the first to see such horrors.
Abuna Isaias expressed their disappointment with the silence of the international community as genocide is taking place in Tigray and asked the religious institutions across the world to be a voice for the voiceless.
علامات كممتاي خمجيرني ذريئه زملكته زلوا ناي عالم أبيات كريستيانات سنت أين زملكتها زلوا.
The international community is simply idly observing the atrocities in Tigray. International religious institutions are also idly watching. Churches are being destroyed. Believers are being massacred. Tigrayans cannot live in peace in their own country. They are being ethnically
One of things that I expect is actually impartiality of the experts should be ensured. In addition to that, the experts are expected to be high professionals which have a profound experience in human rights, and maybe also an experience of undertaking similar investigations. So such kind of qualifications shall be taken into account. In addition to that, by the way, one of those by the impartiality can be ensured, can be ensuring their independence, particularly the procedure of removal of the experts. Like, for example, in the previous investigation, some important experts have been removed by the Ethiopian government. So their impartiality, their neutrality, their professional experience, and their specialization, I expect, will be taken into account.
The United Nations Human Rights Council has 47 member states elected by the UN General Assembly each year for a 3-year term, including countries with poor human rights records, with the intentions of making such countries more sensitive to violations of human rights. Eritrea is regularly accused of large-scale human rights abuses by the UNHRC, yet the regime in Asmara was elected as a member by the UN General Assembly in October of 2018. The resolution regarding atrocities in Ethiopia passed with 21 yes votes and 15 no-sayers, including Eritrea and Somalia, that have actively taken part in the conflict on the side of the Ethiopian government, with Eritrean forces committing many of the gruesome atrocities committed throughout the conflict and actively taking part in destruction of health facilities and other infrastructures. The Ethiopian government, on its part, has rightly rejected all possibilities for independent investigations into atrocities committed by its forces, calling it an infringement of its sovereignty. But Mabrahtom says that is unacceptable.
Yes, times sovereignty was so much valued, but currently we are in the era of global governance. when we say global governance, the role of sovereignty, particularly this what you call territorial sovereignty, is waning, is decreasing, because there are a number of issues which demand the interaction of different actors of global governance. States are one of the actors of global governance, and non-governmental organizations, intergovernmental organizations, even private actors, companies, multinational companies can be considered as actors of global governance. So, while we are in the era of global governance, where there are a number of global issues which cannot be limited, restricted by the ground of sovereignty, well, it might seem unreasonable to create problems on the possibility of investigation of human rights violations in Tigray and in Ethiopia by the Human Rights Council, because the Human Rights Council, the UN Human Rights Council, is one of the, by the way, noticeable actors of global governance, because it is part of the intergovernmental organizations, the council itself. So, in such circumstance, invoking sovereignty to hinder such kind of investigations of human rights violations, is ridiculous, does not go in line with the current modern world, where the concept of global governance is very important.
The government of Tigray issuing a statement the next day welcoming its adoption and announcing the establishment of a commission dedicated to cooperating with the investigative team. The resolution adopted by the United Nations Human Rights Council calls for all parties to grant unhindered access to the members of the International Commission of Human Rights Experts in Ethiopia to visit sites and to meet and speak freely and privately with whomever they wish to meet or speak with. This would of course be the second investigation to be conducted by the international body, following the joint investigation by the Ethiopian Human Rights Council, a state-appointed body, and the United Nations Higher Commissioner for Human Rights, that was not only unsuccessful in gaining any acceptance from the people of Tigray, but also failed to visit important sites where largely documented atrocities were committed, including Aksum or Mariam Dengalat.
On Friday, Milazat, a small town in southeastern Tigray, was hit by a drone, killing 2 civilians and injuring 5. This is the second drone attack just within this week, with an attack on Monday killing 23 civilians and injuring 8. Aragai Gabriel Mikael has more.
Aerial bombardment in densely populated areas across Tigray has devastating communities everywhere. The small town of Milazat in southeastern part of Tigray was hit by 2 airstrikes just in this week, claiming the lives of dozens of civilians. The most recent bombardment happened on Friday with a drone attack targeting civilians, killing 2 and injuring 5.
They are bombarding children, pregnant mothers and civilians in marketplaces.
An airstrike on Monday targeting a public transport vehicle had killed 23 civilians and injured several more, devastating the small community.
I was saved from the first drone attack with the help of God. I was carrying my child and I don't know what to do now to save myself or my child. It was very frustrating. Civilians and children at the age of 14 and 16 were bombarded on the street. They were hurting no one.
Many civilians died because of the aerial bombardments on December 23, 2021. Some of the dead bodies couldn't be found as they were badly dismembered.
The UN must restrict these drones. The UN should stop them.
The bombardment of civilian residential areas and public infrastructures has intensified in Tigray as countries like United Arab Emirates, Turkey and Iran continue to support and arm the government of Ethiopia and Eritrea.
The Global Society of Tigray Scholars and Professionals released a statement regarding the possibility of a peaceful resolution to the ongoing conflict. In its statements, the GSTS called upon the international community to force the verified and complete withdrawal of the Eritrean and Ethiopian forces from Western Tigray. Abel Tsagabu reports.
The Global Society of Tigray Scholars and Professionals issued a statement on the decision by the government of Tigray to withdraw its forces as it works towards a peaceful resolution to the conflict, stating that any negotiation process must secure the territorial integrity of Tigray and guarantee the right of the people of Tigray to exercise their right to self-determination as enshrined in the 1995 Ethiopian Constitution and international laws and standards. The statement highlighted that the Ethiopian and Eritrean forces are not acting alone, but in cooperation with China, the United Arab Emirates, Iran, and Turkey, who have been providing sophisticated weaponry to the government of Ethiopia and Eritrea. GSCS called on the international community to work towards the swift and complete withdrawal of Eritrean and Ethiopian forces from western Tigray and the halting of the massive military campaign by Ethiopian forces and their allies to reoccupy Tigray, so as to make a peaceful resolution to the conflict plausible. The statement also said that GACS support all efforts to end hostilities and calls for an immediate start of the negotiation towards peace, normalcy, and rebuilding Tigray. Finally, the statement reiterates that the Global Society of Tigray Scholars and Professionals will remain committed to actively engage in all initiatives that aim to ensure long-lasting peace and mutual coexistence of